I'll literally die if you leave, please, don't walk out on me. When a woman drops these words, she's not just being emotional, she's experiencing a total system failure because you've successfully hacked into the deepest part of her lizard brain, what Niccolò Machiavelli calls total dependency. She's going to starve for your presence and spiral just to get 5 minutes of your time again, and I'm going to show you exactly how to flip that switch, so listen closely and watch until the very end, because if you miss one step, this power dynamic will flip, and you'll be the one begging. Centuries ago in The Prince, Machiavelli laid it down that human beings are fickle, ungrateful, and greedy for gain, meaning if you give them what they want, they lose respect, but if you make them starve for what they need, you own them. Today, we're decoding the one meeting, total control blueprint, which in the USA is often called toxic attraction, but we call it strategic dominance. Imagine you're on a date where the vibe is electric, but the moment you stand up to leave, she grabs your arm and whispers, "When am I seeing you again?" That's not a coincidence, it's a psychological trap you set the moment you walked in. Most guys make the nice guy mistake of being too available, telling her they'll call tomorrow and selling their power for peanuts, but Machiavelli says a prince must never be predictable because when you reveal your next move, you lose all your leverage. We're about to dive into 4 dangerous concepts that will make any high-status woman absolutely unforgettable. Rule number 1 is the grand entrance, where Machiavelli believed that a prince's presence should be so heavy it pulls all the oxygen out of the air, not by being the loudest, but by radiating main character energy. In the modern USA dating scene, everyone is doing low-effort dates, which Machiavelli would call a failure because if you show up as a mediocre man, you get mediocre results, so you must show up as the biggest event in her life. In the first 15 minutes, you must set your value frame by maintaining intense eye contact like you're reading her source code and using controlled speech to fill the room with silence, which makes people nervous and forces them to leak information. The more she talks to fill the void, the more control you gain, following Machiavelli's logic that princes must perform great enterprises to keep their subjects in awe. Your date is a great enterprise, and she needs to feel like she's sitting with a man who has a plan to conquer the world, much like the dark, high-value, and mysterious characters of The Batman or The Godfather, who stay rent-free in people's heads. Stop being a soft boy who dumps trauma on her for sympathy, because Machiavelli says sympathy is the grave of respect. People love those who can protect them, not those who need a hug, and sharing your problems is just taking off your crown and handing it to her. Now we get to the lethal part, the strategic exit, which is the exact moment where she starts to starve for you. Most guys stay until the conversation dies and both people are bored, but Machiavelli believed a prince should leave while people still want more. Picture the conversation peaking and the connection at 100%, right then, you check your watch and say you've got something urgent to handle and gotta bounce, leaving her in shock as her brain glitches, wondering why you're leaving the prize. This is a microdose of rejection, and psychology proves that humans chase what's moving away from them, so when she asks you to stay longer, you just smirk and say, "Some other time." That phrase creates an obsession loop in her head where she's stuck wondering when that time will be, if she did something wrong, or what could possibly be more important than her. This is where obsession starts, known in the USA as the Zeigarnik effect, where our brains cannot forget unfinished tasks. You left the meeting unfinished, and now her brain will be desperate to complete that loop, proving Machiavelli's point that men are so simple that a deceiver will never lack victims. You aren't deceiving her, you're managing her needs by strategically withdrawing the attention she now craves. The meeting's over and you're home, but now we enter the silence period, where that first line about her dying if you leave starts becoming her reality. When she texts you that she had a great time or asks if you got home safe, rule number 1 is to not reply immediately, because texting back in seconds destroys the mystery Machiavelli says a prince must maintain. You must be rare. If you're always available, you're just a commodity, an NPC. Wait at least 4 to 5 hours before replying with something short and high value like, "Yeah, was good. Busy now," to show her that your world doesn't revolve around her. In the USA, thousands of simps are sending flowers and texting, "I miss you," only to get ghosted or friend-zoned because they're predictable, but a Machiavellian prince is a puzzle everyone wants to solve. When she asks when you're meeting again, never give her a solid date, tell her you'll see because your schedule is packed, which is when her ego takes a hit. She realizes she can't control you, and to regain that control, she'll start chasing you harder, begging for the very thing you're gatekeeping, your time. Now that she's stuck in the obsession loop, you have to solidify your position by introducing the most powerful tool in the Machiavellian arsenal, triangulation. Machiavelli understood that men never do anything good except by necessity, and the same applies to emotional investment. If she thinks she's the only one in your orbit, her necessity to please you drops to zero. You need to anchor her insecurity by subtly signaling that your time is being fought over by other high-value entities, whether that's other women, massive business deals, or exclusive social circles. In the USA, we call this social proof, but Machiavelli called it the majesty of the prince, where the prince is so sought after that everyone else feels lucky just to have a seat at his table. During your next interaction, whether it's a text or a brief second meeting, don't tell her about other women, but show her you have options by being slightly distracted or mentioning a busy night out with friends, without giving up the details. This lack of detail is the glitch that forces her to fill in the blanks with her own insecurities, making her realize that if she doesn't secure your attention now, someone else will. You are not her boyfriend yet, you are a prize that the world is trying to steal, and once she feels that threat, her "I'll die if you leave" energy will shift from a mere phrase into a full-blown survival instinct. To make a meeting unforgettable, you have to master what psychologists call the peak end rule, a concept Machiavelli utilized by ensuring his most dramatic actions happened at the most critical moments to leave the public in awe. You must ensure that the peak of the meeting, the moment of highest emotional connection, and the end, are both controlled by you and left on a high note that feels unresolved. Most guys try to end a date with a sweet moment that signals safety, but safety is the enemy of obsession. Obsession thrives in the danger zone of the unknown. As you prepare for the final withdrawal of the meeting, you should drop a profound, deep insight about her character that makes her feel seen on a level no one else has reached, then immediately stand up and leave. This creates a psychological high followed by a crash the moment you walk out the door, leaving her addicted to the high and desperate to figure out how you understood her so well. You are performing a psychological takeover, where you become the only person who truly gets her, yet you are the only person she can't fully have. This duality is the foundation of the Machiavellian prince's power, being both the savior and the enigma, ensuring that her mind stays locked on the puzzle of who you really are long after the candles have burned out. There will come a moment when the pressure you've built becomes too much, and she will try to break your frame with tears or an emotional outburst, demanding to know where she stands. This is the ultimate test. Machiavelli warned that a prince must be a centaur, half man, half beast, meaning you must have the human capacity for conversation but the beast's capacity for cold, unshakable indifference when necessary. When she says, "Please don't leave me," or "Why are you being like this?" your response must be a masterclass in weaponized indifference. You don't get angry, you don't apologize, and you definitely don't comfort her in a way that signals you're backing down. You simply look at her with calm, steady eyes and say, "I value my space and my focus. If you can't handle a man with a mission, you're not the one for me." This is a takeaway sell. You are threatening to remove the very thing she's begging for, which forces her to self-correct her behavior to fit your standards. In the USA, most men fold here because they're afraid of being toxic, but a Machiavellian knows that the one who cares the least holds all the power. By remaining the cold prince, you teach her that the only way to stay in your presence is to respect your boundaries and your absence, effectively training her to become the version of herself that is most submissive to your lead. The end goal of the Machiavellian meeting is to transition from being an option to becoming a necessity. You have used the strategic exit, the silence period, and the insecurity anchor to create a reality where her emotional stability depends on your validation. You are now the main character of her story, and every other person she meets is just a background NPC compared to the intensity you've provided. To finalize the lockdown, you provide a sudden, unexpected warmth after a long period of cold, a Machiavellian tactic of intermittent reinforcement that creates a chemical addiction in the brain similar to gambling. When you finally decide to meet her again, you treat her with the grandeur of a king, making her feel like she's finally won the war, only to remind her subtly that the war is never truly over and your presence is a gift, not a right. This keeps her in a state of permanent pursuit, where she will spend the rest of her time trying to recreate the high of that first unforgettable meeting. You have won the game of social dominance by following the ancient rules of power, proving that in 2026, the human heart still follows the same dark blueprints Machiavelli drew 5 centuries ago. The crowd will follow the simps, but the high-value woman will always beg for the prince who had the balls to walk away and make her wait. Look, most people watching this will go back to being NPCs. They'll keep chasing, keep begging, and keep wondering why they're always the second choice. But you just stayed through 8,000 words of the most dangerous psychological blueprint on the planet. You're already built different that if you're ready to stop being the one who begs and start being the one who rules, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We don't make content for the weak, we build princes. Drop a lone wolf in the comments right now to let the world know you've officially exited the sheep's circle. Let the others wonder where you went. We're busy building empires.